Hello everyone, welcome to this class on C programming and welcome new students. Hello Kalpana, Kirti, Sangeeta, Saswati, Sidra, Suman, Supriya and Kirti Sharma. So please connect with audio, otherwise you will not get my voice. So welcome to this course on NTNet Computer Science. So in the upcoming 6 months, we will be completing paper 1 and paper 2 with lots of practice and lots of concepts. So there are some old students and there are some new students. Let me first discuss about what new students should do and what old students should do. So those who have recently joined the course, so if you are a new student, so we have completed C programming. Okay, that means the C programming that is not that much like weightage is not that much in NTNet. So first thing is you tell me is there anyone in the class who is not comfortable with English or who is not comfortable with Hindi? Is there anyone who is not comfortable completely in English or not completely in Hindi? You can send me in chat box. So we have already completed C programming and there are almost 25 videos of C programming, and every video is of 90 minutes. That means the C programming recordings will be of around you can say 35 hours videos. Okay, and we have completed some part of the operating system, and in operating system we have completed until the paging part, that is the part of the memory management. And whatever we have completed, there are 21 videos of operating system, and each video is of 90 minutes. That means almost 30 hours you will have to watch the recordings of operating system. Okay, don't worry if you do not understand any concept, you will understand in the revision course. Okay, so for now the videos are in such a way that you can easily understand every concept of C programming and operating system. So those are who are new students, they need to first complete these recordings. So that means you will have to watch approximately 70 hours of recordings. So if you watch 4 hours every day or 3 hours every day, then you can complete them in one month or 20 days. Depends on how many hours you are watching every day. Okay. So what you should do is, so we will continue the operating system from where we left. So we have paging part remaining in the operating system, and after that we have file management and virtual memory and disk management. So three topics are remaining in operating system, that is virtual memory, disk management and file management. Okay. So first we will complete these parts in the live classes, and those who are new students, they will not be able to understand whatever we will study in operating system because they have not watched the previous recordings of operating system. So my suggestion for the new student will be that for the next 15 days they should complete the recordings, and after 15 days the operating system will be completed and a new subject will start, that is computer architecture and organization. So you should come into the live classes from the beginning of the computer architecture and organization, so that you will understand everything in this, right? There is no restriction that you cannot join the live classes. You can come into the live classes, and if you can understand, that is very good. So what you should do is there is one more way of copying up with the live classes. आप क्या कर सकते हो, आप ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम की एक रिकॉर्डिंग देखो डेली और साथ में ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम की लाइव क्लास भी अटेंड करो. सो आपको सब चीज़ें ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम की समझ में आएगी. फॉर एग्जांपल ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम में हम कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं सीपीयू शेड्यूलिंग, प्रोसेस मैनेजमेंट, एंड देन डेडलॉक्स, then process synchronization, and then we have completed memory management, right? In memory management some part is remaining. So there are three topics, that is introduction to operating system, then introduction to process management, then CPU scheduling, and deadlocks and process synchronization. These topics we have completed in the operating system. So if you can parallelly complete the recordings of the operating system, then it will be good. That means you can come into the live classes and you will understand everything. Okay, so I hope all of you are aware of the syllabus of the NTNet. If not, let me discuss in the easy way. So NTNet Computer Science, there are two papers, paper 1 and paper 2, right? The weightage of paper 1 is 100 marks and there will be 50 questions of 2 marks each, right? In paper 2, you will be having 100 questions and each question will be of 2 marks, that means 200 marks. for the paper 2, right? So 50 questions in paper 1 and 100 questions in paper 2. That means there will be total 150 questions, and the paper will be of 300 marks. Each question will be of 2 marks, right? And there is no negative marking in the NT-NET paper. And if you are targeting for NT-NET lecturership, so there are two things in NT-NET, that is NT-NET lecturership, and there is NT-NET JRF. Okay, so lecturership is, if you qualify only lecturership, then you can apply for teaching jobs. That means you can apply for the government institutes. If you want to teach, if you want to become lecturer in the government institutes, then you can do that with only lecturership. But if you qualify JRF also, then your weightage of your score will be more. That means you can, if you want to join PhD in IITs or in any centrally funded universities, for example NITs or triple ITs or your central universities, then they will ask you for NT-NET JRF or GATE. Okay, so for NT-NET JRF there is a age limit. So for general category the age limit is of 30 years for male students, and if you are a female student then it is 35 years, right? You will get the age relaxation. And for OBC category, for male candidates it will be 35 years, and for female candidates it will be 40 years. Okay, so female candidate will get some age relaxation. So there is no age criteria for NT-NET lecturership. And the score of the, if you qualify NT-NET lecturership, then your score will be valid for the lifetime. There is no validity on the score of the NT-NET. But if you qualify NT-NET JRF, there is a validity of the course. Okay, that is 2 years. That means if you qualify NT-NET JRF, then you will have to take admission in PhD within 2 years. If you do not take the admission in within 2 years, then you will have to appear for the NT-NET again, right? So NT-NET JRF is a very important thing, and it is a like if you will go for PhD admission, and if you have GATE score and you have NT-NET JRF score or any of these, so the weightage of JRF will be more than GATE. That means if there are, let us say, 100 students applying for the PhD in IITs, then those who are qualified JRF, they will definitely be selected. Okay, you can say you have 90% chances that you will be selected for PhD. So JRF is having a very good power. But there's only very few number of students who will qualify JRF. There's a different cutoff for lecturership and for JRF. So for example, the paper will be of 300 questions, right? So paper will be of 300 marks. And if you are able to get, and if you are in the general category, and if you are able to get 190 marks out of 300s, then you will qualify NT-NET, that is lecturership, right? And if you are able to get 200 marks out of 300, then you will qualify JRF. And if you are in OBC or SC/ST, then you can simply decrease it, so you can make it 180, 190 to 180, and for SC/ST it will be, for SC it will be 165, and for ST it will be 150 around. Okay, so this will be the criteria for qualifying NT-NET and JRF. So that means out of the total students who will appear for NT-NET, only the top 15% will be called NT-NET qualified, that is lecturership qualified. And out of these top 50%, only top 7% will be called JRF. Okay, so normally between 60 to 80 students qualify in general category JRF every year. So what is the competition? There are so the competition in NT-NET is actually increasing every year. If you will see that in 2018 only 20,000 students applied for the NT-NET. That means these are the students who appeared in the exam. Okay, and in 2019 the number of students appeared for NT-NET was 25,000. Then in 2020 it was 35,000. So the competition in NT-NET is increasing every year, because now there's a rule that if you are not NT-NET qualified, then you cannot teach in any college, and you cannot do PhD, right? In this category you can do PhD if you are GATE qualified, right? If you are not able to qualify NT-NET JRF, or your age is exceeding, then what you can do is you can simply appear for GATE, and if you qualify GATE, then you can go for PhD. You can go for PhD only with the net score also, but you will not get the stipend. Okay, so you will get the stipend of 35,000 if you qualify JRF. every month in PhD, right? So you will see that the cutoff is also increasing every year. For example, in 2018, if any student got 180 marks out of 300, then this student was JRF qualified. But in 2019, the students who got 180 out of 300 was not even net qualified. Okay, for net also it was 190, and in 2020 it reaches 200 marks. Okay, if you want to find in percentage, you can say that if you want to qualify lecturership, then you should get at least 62 to 63% for anti-net lecturership, right? And if you want to qualify JRF, then you should get at least 65 marks. This is for general category. For OBC category, you can decrease by 2%, and for SC/ST category, you can decrease further by 2%. So this will be for JRF, right? And the second thing is that the syllabus of anti-net is very, like, it is very large syllabus, and you should prepare wisely. That means you do not need to study all the topics. So just give me 1 minute. Okay, so this is all about the cutoff and competition. And now you should be having a very clear idea how many marks you need to get, right? And according to your category. Now, how to get those marks? So our target will be that. Uh, so in paper one will be very easy, and out of the 100 marks, if you are able to get 50 to 60 marks, that is also very good. Okay, very good marks in paper one. 50 to 60 marks. And then in paper 2, you will have to push little bit much, and if you are able to target 140 to 150 marks, which is also very easy in paper 2. The problem with the anti-net is that the syllabus is very huge, but it is not very hard. Like, the questions in anti-net will be very easy, but the syllabus is very large. So that is the only problem. That means we have to cover the topics in such a way that we get the maximum marks in the minimum time, right? You have only 6 months now. The next anti-net exam will be in June 2022. So you have 6 months to complete these 10 units. So there are 10 units in paper 2, and there are, I think, 6 or 8 units in paper 1, right? And some of the units in paper 1 are only common sense. That means you do not need to prepare for them. For example, reasoning, English, aptitude is very easy in anti-net. But you can, if you are not having a math background, then you will have to prepare for aptitude also. Then there is general knowledge. In general knowledge, if you know, then you can solve. If you do not know, you cannot solve. There is nothing in that. You cannot apply mind. Then there will be a part that is ICT. ICT for computer science students is very easy, right? You can do all the questions correctly in that particular part. But this time, if you will see the examination of 2021 that happened in November, the paper one was actually very complex. Okay, paper one was not easy in this examination. When the keys are out and the result is out, we will solve this paper. You will see that the questions were not very easy in this paper. That means जब से एग्जाम एंटी नेट का सीबीएसई से एंटी नेट के पास आया, तो एनटीए ने थोड़ा सा लेवल बढ़ा दिया है. मतलब क्वेश्चन जो है अब इतनी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नहीं आ रहे जितने पहले आते थे. तो अगर आप खुद से प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो तो आप आराम से सॉल्व कर सकते हो. बट अब थोड़ा नाउ द लेवल इज लिटिल बिट हायर, so you will require some help in the form of coaching or videos, right? Now we have all these units, and So if you talk about paper 2, in paper 2 you will have to study lots of topics, but we will study them in such a way that you do not forget the topics, concepts, and you are able to solve the questions. So for that, what we will do is, we will solve the questions topic wise, and we will also solve the questions after completing the subject, right? So if we talk about the unit number 1, in unit number 1 we have the discrete mathematics. Okay, so discrete mathematics is having a weightage of 25 to 30 marks in NTNet, and it is all about mathematics, that is logic, first order logic, set relation, functions, groups, graph theory, and optimization, etc. Then in unit 2 we have computer architecture and organization. Okay, in this we will talk about digital logic design, microprocessors 8085 and 8086, and the basic of computer architecture. Okay, so the weightage of this unit is 20 marks. Then we have the third unit. So I'm not sure what is the name of the unit, but there are 10 units. So the third unit is, let's say, programming. So in this we will talk about C programming, C++, and object oriented programming, right? And then there is a computer graphics subject also, which is having the weightage of 20 marks. So like this, there are 10 units in NTNet, and the 10th unit is artificial intelligence. Okay, so there are 10 units, and in each unit you will find 3 or 4 subjects. That means you can say that in paper 2, whatever you have studied in your bachelor's and master's, there are approximately 20 to 23 subjects which you have to prepare for paper 2, right? But with a proper strategy, you can easily study all these topics in the limited time. And the topic which I'm going to discuss here, these are the most important topics that we will concentrate. Okay, so the first part is C data structures and algorithms. Okay, this is very important. Then second one is discrete mathematics. Then the third part is TOC and compiler. You will find some of the subjects in this NTNet syllabus which you have not studied in your masters. If you have done MCA, if you have done MTech, then you will find all of the topics you have already studied, right? Then there will be operating system, computer architecture and organization. Okay, then there will be DBMS, then computer networks, then there will be uh, software engineering, artificial intelligence, and computer graphics. Okay, then there will be object oriented programming and C++, and then web programming. Okay, these are the main topics which will cover most of the syllabus of NTNet. Okay, this means that if you study not on 23 subjects, if you study only 12 or 13 subjects, if you study only 12 or 13 subject, you can easily crack JRF. Okay, NTNet तो आप 10 सब्जेक्ट पढ़ के भी आराम से क्वालिफाई कर लोगे. अगर आप JRF टारगेट करो तो आपको 2-3 सब्जेक्ट एक्स्ट्रा पढ़ने पड़ेंगे. ओके, इफ़ आई टॉक अबाउट माई सेल्फ, जब मैंने नवंबर 2017 में नेट दिया, दैट वाज माय फर्स्ट टाइम, सो आई स्टडीड ओनली दीज सब्जेक्ट्स. Okay, these 7 subjects, and I qualified JRF. Okay, so the main thing is that whatever you are studying, if you can solve 90% questions from that particular subject, then you can easily get JRF. Okay, there are many students there. I can give the example of many students from the last batch who studied only 10 subjects and qualified JRF. Okay, qualifying JRF is actually a very big thing. Why I'm saying that? Because out of the 35,000 students, combining all categories, only around 150 students will qualify JRF in all over the India. Okay, and out of these 150 students, we 10 students were from our last batch. Okay, in our last batch we had 40 students, and out of these 40 students, around 30 students qualified NET, and 7 qualified JRF. Okay, so this is this, you can say, our second or third batch for NTNet computer science. And before coming to this platform, I was teaching on an academy, and on an academy I had more than 4 million views. in 2 or 3 months only. So I have a very good experience in teaching for NTNet, and I'm teaching for NTNet from 2017. Okay, so I have a very good experience of this exam and gate exam, and you can trust whatever I will be telling you to do. If you do only that thing, then you will easily get through this exam. Okay, it is not very complex. Just be calm and study only for 3 or 4 hours every day. Then you can easily get through this exam. आपको क्या नहीं करना है, आपको ये नहीं करना है कि आपने एक हफ्ता पूरा ढंग से पढ़ा और फिर उसके बाद 15 दिन की छुट्टी कर दी, राइट? आप कंसिस्टेंटली पढ़ो, चाहे डेली आप 1 आवर पढ़ो या 2 आवर्स पढ़ो, बट कंसिस्टेंटली पढ़ना। ये इस छोटे से एग्जाम के बारे में नहीं है, आप कोई भी कॉम्पिटेटिव एग्जाम के बारे में प्रिपेयर करो, राइट? सो व्हेन यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर एनटीनेट, यू विल बी स्टडिंग लॉट्स ऑफ सब्जेक्ट्स। ओके, एनटीनेट से प्रिपेयर करने का फ़ायदा आपको क्या होगा? व्हेन यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर एनटीनेट, यू विल एक्चुअली बी हैविंग द बेनिफिट ऑफ अपीयरिंग इन एनी एग्जामिनेशन। फॉर एग्जांपल, कोई भी कंप्यूटर साइंस से रिलेटेड एग्ज़ाम होगा, आपको एग्ज़ाम देना है, चाहे वो आपका किसी भी पीएसयू का हो, अगर आप एलिजिबल हो पीएसयू के लिए, या फिर वो कोई भी स्कूल लेवल एग्ज़ाम हो लाइक पीजीटी और टीजीटी, राइट? या फिर आपका स्टेट का एग्ज़ाम हो, दैट इज़ स्टेट एलिजिबिलिटी टेस्ट। जितने भी स्टेट एलिजिबिलिटी टेस्ट होंगे, ऑल द सेट एग्जाम्स आर हैविंग द सेम सिलेबस एज एनटीनेट। दैट मीन्स you will not have to prepare for this exam separately. Then you can also appear for gate with the same lectures which I will be teaching you. Okay, so if this is the gate syllabus, then this is the net syllabus. That means the syllabus of net is superset of the syllabus of the gate. The syllabus of the net is having more subjects, but the depth is actually in gate they will ask the question from very depth. In NTNet they will not ask the questions from depth, they will simply ask you question only the simple concepts, right? So by preparing for NTNet, you will be able to give lots of examinations, right? You will be able to give TSSP, which will be coming very soon. And now in the next 6 months you will be seeing that for in every state you will find lecturership post. For example, recently they released the post from Jammu Kashmir, then Haryana, then Punjab, then Kurukshetra, then Maharashtra. So in all these states they have already released the lecturership post, right? If your target is to become a lecturer or assistant professor in one of the government institutes, then this exam will help you incredibly, right? So there are many more related examinations like NEET also there for scientist post. You can also give this examination with the same preparation, okay, with the same syllabus. So you will not only be preparing for NTNet, you will be actually preparing for lots of examinations because the syllabus of all these examinations is same as NTNet, right? And by studying all these subjects in this particular course, you will not only be preparing for NTNet, actually you will be preparing to become a very good lecturer, to become a very good professor who have a knowledge of every subject in depth, right? So you will not be a dumb teacher, you will be a very good teacher when you will study this complete course from Acadflix, right? Because we will be teaching you every topic with the reasoning why we are studying that particular topic and how we are utilizing that topic, right? And in this course, plus you will if you are going to become a researcher, then this course will also help you to identify your research topic and to do some research in that particular topic. That means we will also be preparing you for PhD. So before PhD, if you do not know in what topic you are going to do research and how to do research, how to prepare synopsis and proposal and everything, we will also be preparing you for all those things, right? So these are the benefits of this course, and now I think you have the clear idea how you need to proceed. So what you need to do is every day you need to attend the live class. But if you are not able to attend the live class, then make sure that you will watch the recording of that live class on the same day or on the weekend. But in that particular week, finish all the recordings or live classes in that particular week. Right? Do not procrastinate the videos. Otherwise, the syllabus will keep piling up, and then you will simply be stressed in the last few months. Okay, so in the last months, like in May or June, we will also release test series that will help you to test your concepts and that will help you to improve wherever you have any weaknesses, right? So any doubt you can ask. If you have any new students or old students, if you have any doubt, you can ask. So there are many things which are unique to our institute. That is, first thing is that results, right? Our results are like best in the India. You will see that on an academy or in any platform there are more than 1500 or 2000 students, but only 4 or 5 students qualify net. But here, out of the 40 or 50 45 batch, lots of students are qualifying uh, exam. Plus all our faculties are, you can see, you can look at the profile of the faculties, you will see what is special, right? All are from ISCs and IITs. So you can imagine what level of teaching they will be having. So we want to make you better than ours, better than us in research and in teaching, right? One more thing, if you qualify this net examination, you will be having lots of job opportunities. You are looking at the online, you can look at the online classes and the space which is increasing. So now everything is online, right? You know, all the classes almost, there are lots of institutes who are providing the classes for GATE and DNET and lots of examination. You can teach in any of these, any of these institutes. If you qualify JRF, you can directly contact me and you will get a job on the next day. Okay, there's a very good demand of these people. So anyone any doubt? Okay, so I just want to know before starting your background so that I can understand how I need to teach. So Kalpana, Kriti, Sangeeta, everyone, whoever's in the class, please type your master's degree and the language you prefer. And if you have given internet exam already, then please mention. Okay, write in the chat your degree and your master's degree and your preferred language, Hindi or English. MCA English. Okay. You can also mention your state. Okay. I think Sakshi is also okay. Sakshi is from Jammu. Saraswati. Okay. Saraswati is very talented. English Karnataka. MC English Jammu Kashmir. Okay. Kalpana, from where you are? Okay. So in C programming, what we have discussed till now. So the weightage of C programming in 1990 is 4 marks. Okay. So every student who is from computer science, whether you are MCA, BCA, or BTech or MTech, you should know C programming. Okay, it's not only about NTNet; it's about interviews also. In your interviews also, so you will get the question from C programming. So whether it does not matter whether the weightage of C programming is 4 marks or 2 marks, you should actually study C programming, because C programming will also help you to understand data structures. Without C programming, understanding data structure will not be easy, right? You will be able to understand algorithms plus some concepts of operating system and computer architecture. That means there are four subjects which are dependent on C programming. That's why you should study C programming, right? So in C programming, we have studied about the compilation process in the first class. So we have seen how the program is compiled. Then we have seen the execution process. That means how the program executes, right? Then in C programming, we have seen the variables. So for example, we have different kind of variables like global variable, local variable. Then we have seen how to declare the variables and define how to define the variables, right? Then we have seen the conditional statements like if else and switch case. Okay, so we have seen the conditional operators and all. Then we have seen the loops like for loop, while loop, and do while loop, right? Or simply while loop. All these we have seen. Then we have discussed about the static variables, how the static variable work in C programming, right? Then we have seen the functions in C. We have seen the normal functions and the recursive functions. Okay, we have seen what is a function and how the function works. Then we have seen recursion and we have solved a lots of questions on recursion. Okay, then we have seen the parameter passing techniques. In parameter passing technique, we have seen the call by value, call by reference, call by name, and call by copy restore. So there are different parameter passing techniques. Parameter passing techniques means that when you are calling a function, how you can pass the parameters to the caller, right? So after parameter passing techniques, then we have seen the pointers. So this is the most important part of C programming, right? If you do not know the pointers and arrays, then you will not be able to solve 90% of the questions of NT-NET and GATE. So pointers and arrays are the most important part. These are simply the basics. Okay, this is simply basic programming till here. The main C programming starts from the pointers, arrays, and string. So we have seen 1D array, 2D array, and 3D arrays. And what is the relation of arrays with the pointers, that also we have seen. Okay, so pointer play a very good role in arrays and strings. So we have seen all these kind of arrays. Then we have seen strings and pointers and how to declare strings in C programming and how to simply manipulate the strings. Right? So we have seen string, array, and pointers. Then we have solved the previous year questions on these. So after every topic, we have solved the questions on that particular topic, right? After that, we have seen the last part, that is structure and union, which is user defined data types. Structure and union. So all these topics are completed in C programming, and the recordings of each and every topic with the previous year questions and the PDF of every lecture is also available, right? So let me show you where you can find them. So as you can see here, so if you will go to my courses section, and you will find this section inside this section you are currently, right? So you will see the C programming here, and in the C programming you will find all these videos. So this is the video of the lecture, and this is the PDF of that particular lecture, then video of the next lecture, then PDF of the next lecture. So like this, for every video you have a PDF which you can simply download by clicking this button. Okay, by clicking the download button. So if you have already studied C programming and you are very good in C programming, then what you can do is you can simply download the PDF and you can revise from the PDFs. But I will suggest you to watch each and every recording, because I have taught the C programming from a very different perspective. what you study in your university, in your masters or bachelor's, that is completely different from the programming which is being asked in the competitive examinations. So for competitive examinations, you will have to study C programming from a different perspective, that is in more depth. So you will find lots of new things in this C programming course which you have not studied till now. C programming usually is taught in the first semester of your bachelor's, which is the basic of the computer science, because everything is implemented. The like many big things in computer science is being implemented with the C programming. For example, Unix is being developed using C programming. Most of the Windows operating system is being developed in C programming and C++, and the kernel of the operating system is also written in C programming. So C programming is a very popular and very good programming language. That's why still we study this, right? So this was developed in 1972 and still it is relatable. So do not study paper one for now. We will start the live classes of paper one again. Then after completing the C programming unit, C programming recordings, there are 24 recordings of C programming, including today's recording, and there are some operating system recordings like 21. So operating system is also very important topic. Okay, you cannot leave operating system. So complete the recordings of operating system and C programming, and when you are watching the recording, if you are getting any doubt, you can directly send me on WhatsApp, or you can directly post on the discussion section of the website, or you can send in the WhatsApp group in which I have added you. So I have added you in two groups, that is Academic discussion group and NTNet 2022 group. So discussion group is open for everyone. You can post your doubts and you will get the answer instantly, right? So this today's class is, you will find here 24th class, right? So let us come back to our class. Okay, so these are the topics which we have discussed in C programming till now. And before this week, I will spend in revising whatever we have discussed till now. That means, so we have completed C programming. So for next 3 days, we will revise C programming. Then for the next 3 days, we will revise operating system. So once everything is fresh in your mind, because it's been a long time since we studied C programming and operating system in the live class. So the live classes are starting after 2 or 3 months gap. So I'm assuming that you have forgot everything. The old students have forgot everything in C programming and operating system, whatever they have studied till now. So the next 6 days we will spend in revising whatever we have studied till now in these two subjects. And then from the next Monday onwards, we will start the next topic in operating system, right? That is inverted paging or paging. So that's how your continuity will start. Okay. So what you will have to do is, because you have very limited time, you will have to target that in every month you must be able to complete at least two subjects. Okay. So every month you should be able to complete two subjects, and in the end of the course, that is when the exam will be announced, that means before 1.5 months of the examination, we will start the revision course. Okay, revision course and then practice course. So so last 1.5 month will be reserved for the revision and practice and the mock test. 1.1 month or 1 month, right? That depends on how soon we complete the syllabus, right? So currently January is going on and you have very good amount of time. If you are zero in computer science, that means if you are studying computer science after a very long gap, that is after 4 year or 5 year, or you don't know anything, you have forgot everything about the computer science, still you can start from zero. And in the next 4 5 months, if you practice enough and you study enough and you do whatever I say to do, then you will be easily qualifying the GRF of NTNet. Not only GRF, you will actually qualify any examination which will be having the same syllabus, like NEET exam or state eligibility exam or any other school level exam, right? And even if you have already qualified NET and you are targeting for GRF, you should not be overconfident. Okay, you should not do like this. Okay, I'm studying CPU scheduling. I already know CPU scheduling. I have already solved lots of questions in CPU scheduling. I do not need to study this. Okay, you should not be overconfident on if you are even if NET qualified. And if you are targeting GRF, then you should be very much careful this time. because there may be some wrong concepts in your mind and you are overconfident about them, so you will not correct those concepts. So carefully study each and every topic and practice the questions. Do not look at the solution before solving the question. Okay, solve your questions and then look at the solution. So that's how those who are targeting for JRF and already qualified net, those who are from the previous batches, then they need to do more practice this time, right? And I have done lots of modifications in this course, so lots of improvement are there in this course. That means we are adding some more topics and in some more depth. If you will look at the C programming course of this particular batch and of the last batch, that is from the 2020 batch, you will find lots of differences. Okay, you will find lots of things are being added and lots of things are being improvised. Cool. I will try to teach each and every topic in such a way that it is easily understandable and you are able to solve the questions. Okay. So in today's class, this is the main topic. I just wanted to discuss what we are going to do and what will be our strategy. And from next class, we will start learning the concepts. Okay, we will start the revision. If you have any doubts, this is only for this class is only for discussion, and this you can simply say that this is the orientation session for the new students. So any new student or old student if is having any doubts, then they can ask. I will be happy to answer your questions. So try to attend as many as live classes you can, but if you are not able to attend the live classes, then please watch the recordings. Okay, do not simply pile up the recordings and lectures. It will be very complex for you to go in the end. Okay, difference between structure and union. So Saswati, it's so you know that we have user defined data types and system defined data types, right? Data type means that when you will declare any variable, you will tell what kind of variable is this. So there is user defined data types which are already added in the C programming and they are available to use. For example, integer, okay, char, float, or long. All these are system defined data types that is already defined. That means system defined means that their meaning is already defined. You cannot change the meaning. Then there are user defined data types. That means you can also create your own data type. You can create your own data type, and user defined data types can be created with the help of structure keyword. That is, first we have structure and then we have union, right? So for creating a structure, we will use the keyword struct, and for creating the union, we will create the keyword union. We will use the keyword union. So for example, the difference between the structure and union is this. So for example, let us say I'm creating a new data type. The name of the data type is node, right? And the definition of this data type is that, let us say that in this I'm declaring three variables: int a, char b, and float c, right? So let's say integer takes 2 bytes. Okay, the size of the integer will depend system to system, so it will not be same for all the compilers. For example, if you have a 16-bit compiler, then the size of the integer will be 16-bit, or you can say 2 bytes. The size of the character, float, long, all the size of these data types are already defined. Character takes 1 byte, float takes 4 bytes, and integer takes 2 bytes. Now if you create any variable of this user defined data type, so what is the name of user defined data type? That is node. So if you create any variable of the node type, let us say n1, okay, now you can assign the values to n1 in this way. N1 equals to, the first value will be integer value, that is 10. Second value will be a character value, and third value will be a float value, right? So this variable n1 in memory, so this variable n1 will be an array in which you will be having three locations. That is, one for the integer variable, one for your character variable, and one for float variable, right? Integer will take 2 bytes, character will take 1 byte, and float will take 4 byte. That means once you initialize this variable, you will get 7 bytes in memory. That means this structure will take 7 byte in memory. That means if you create any variable of this particular type, then you will have to it will use 7 bytes. For example, just like integer takes 2 bytes, character takes 1 byte, now your data type will take 7 bytes in the memory, right? But if you do the same thing with union, let us say you are creating a node of union type. This time you are using union, not the structure, right? Everything is same in structure and union. That means the way of declaration and initialization and use is same, but the difference is only this. Let us say you have a float variable in this a, then you have an integer variable b, and you have carry variable c, right? So now you will not get the memory. For example, float takes 4 bytes, integer takes 2 bytes, and character takes 1 byte, right? So if you create any variable of node type, let us say node n1, so n1 is a variable of node type. Now the question is, how much memory n1 will take? In case of structure, it will take 7 bytes. But in case of node, the memory will be shared. That means you will get the maximum of all these. For example, maximum of 4 to 1 is 4. That means you will get a memory of 4 bytes. Okay, you will get a memory chunk of 4 bytes, and all these variables will share the same memory. Okay, for example, let us say you say n1 dot a. That means the a member of the n1 is n1 union. In this, let us say you are assigning a value 10.5, so the value 10.5 will be stored in this particular memory area. Now if you declare, let us say n1 dot b, okay, if you initialize this particular variable and you say, let us say 12, now this value will be overwritten by the b. Okay, and now if you say n1 dot c equals to, let us say, some character b, now this will be overwritten by this character b, because they are using the same memory. So if you want to save the memory, then you can use union. And if you want, so you will use the union only when you know that only one of the variables will be used at a time. If all the variables are used at the same time, then you will use the structure, because in the structure what you will have is, in a structure you will get the memory separately for every variable. For example, for float, you will get a memory area of 4 byte. For integer, you will get a memory area of 2 bytes, and for char, you will get a memory area of 1 byte. That means if you are initializing this a, this will be stored in the float area, and if you are initializing integer, then you will it will be it will be in the integer area, right? And character will be in the char area, right? So in case of structure, it will take 7 bytes. In case of union, it will take only 4 bytes. That means maximum of all these. Getting my point, Saraswati? Understood? So for example, let us say we have this structure. Okay, you will tell me how much size this particular structure node will take. Okay, how much size this structure, if you create any variable of this node type, let us say in the main function, I'm creating a variable d1 which is of node type. Okay, now you tell me how much size it will take d1. You're saying 7 bytes. Wrong. I think you did not look at the array. It is an array of integer. So there are 10 integers. Each integer takes 2 bytes. So it will take 20 bytes. This A will take 20 bytes. This C will take 10 bytes, because each character takes 1 byte and there are 10 characters. It is an array of 10 characters. And D will take 4 bytes, right? D will take 4 bytes. So it will take 20 plus 30 plus 4, 34 byte. That means this d1 variable will take 31 byte 34 bytes. And if this is the, let us say, if instead of structure I write union, then how much size it will take? If instead of structure I write union, then how much size it will take? 20 bytes. That is maximum of all these, maximum of 20, 10 and 4, right? Okay, So today, you what you need to do is, those who are old students and those who are new students and have already studied C programming, they need to collect their doubts in C programming, and they need to bring those doubts tomorrow in the next class, right? That's what you need to do today and tomorrow. And those who are new students, they simply need to start watching the recordings of C programming, right? So first I will suggest them to start operating system. So if they complete operating system, then they can come in the live classes, because the next subject will be computer architecture and organization, and for this particular subject you require understanding of operating system. Even if you do not understand if you have not studied operating system, still you can understand computer architecture completely. Difference between array and strings. So Saswati, string is an array of characters. So for example, array can be of any type. Okay, array can be of integer type, array can be of character type, or array can be of float type, or any other type, right? Long or short. So array can be of any type. So what is array? Array is simply the collection of similar data types. Collection of similar data type. That means if you are declaring an array of integer type, then you can store only integer values in that array, right? So when we talk about string is actually an array of characters. So for example, let us say I want to store Saswati. So how I will store Saswati? What I will do is I will take an array of characters of, let us say, 15 bytes. So now what I can do is, in this array I can store Saswati, right? Why do I require the array of characters? Because this is the string is nothing but the collection of characters, right? If I simply declare char c, so in this char c I can store only one character, that is either s or a or w, whatever. I can store only one character. If I want to store more than one character in a single variable, then I will have to take array of characters. This is called as string, right? Same thing with any other array. Let us say if I declare simply integer a, in this I can store only a single variable, right? In a I can store only one variable. But if you want to store more than one integers, then you will have to take an array. For example, let us say you want to store 5 integer values, so you will take an array of 5 variables. So this kind of array will be created in the memory on the consecutive memory locations. Consecutive memory location means that one after another, like this. Let us say each variable takes 2 bytes, so that's why the address is 2002, like this. So in the first location you can store any value, like this. So now this is an array. So now a is an array of integers which can store 5 integer values, right? So you can declare array of any type: integer type, character type, float type. But the restriction is that if you have declared an array of character type, then you can store only characters in this array. If you have declared an array of float type, then you can store only float values, right? But you will find that your structure is nothing but an array. Okay, structure is actually the counterpart for array. If you declare any structure, this structure is also nothing but an array of values, but the values can be of different data type. For example, I can say integer a. Okay, in this I can say char b, I can say float c. So you will see that structure is nothing but also an array. So it will be an array like this, in which you will be having 3 locations. In the first location you will be storing an integer value. In second location you will be storing a character value. In third location you will be storing a float value, right? So this is also an array, but in this you can store the values of different type. For example, in this you can store integer value, in this you can store character value, in this you can store float value, right? But if you declare an array like this, int a3, you will get 3 locations, but in each location you can store only integer type value, because it is an integer type array. So you can store only the values like this. So in a way, structure and union are also arrays, but array of different data types. You can store different kind of data type also, and you can store the same kind of data type also, right? So if you want to store more than one value in a single variable, then you will be using arrays. And string is nothing but array of characters. Array of character means that you can store more than one character in a single array. So don't worry if you forgot about array, pointer, strings. In the next class we are going to solve lots of gate and anti-net questions on these topics. You will, all the concept will be fresh in your mind. Is there anyone in the class except the previous students who have already appeared for the anti-net exam? Saswati, of array of pointers we will study in details in the next class, because before understanding the array of pointers you need to understand about the pointers, right? So if you remember what pointers do, the pointers will store the address of another variable, right? For example, if you have a main program like this, and let us say you have an integer variable a in which you are storing some value 20. Okay, so when you declare something like this, what will happen in the memory is, in the main memory, the variable a will be created. It will be having the value 20, and then it will be having an address, right? The memory address on which location it is stored. If you remember, in the main memory, every location is having a unique address. Okay, so the memory is divided into the cells, and every cell will be having a unique address. So in this cell you can store any value, then there will be a name of this particular location. Just like you have a house, in that house there are some people, there is a name of the house, and there is an address of the house. So a equals to 20, let us say. Now I am declaring a pointer, so pointer is declared using this asterisk sign, right? And in b I'm assigning the address of a. So this sign represent the address of any variable. Okay, so when you add this and sign with any variable, that means you are accessing the address of that particular variable. So now this means that you have declared a b, that is a pointer of integer type. That means it can store the address of any integer variable. So b will be created in the memory, and b will also be having some address. And now b will not be storing any value, it will be storing an address, the address of a. What is the address of a? That is 1000, right? So this 1000 will be stored inside b. This means that if you try to print something like this, let us say percent %u, percent %d, percent %u, and percent %d. Let us say first I'm printing address of a, then I'm printing a. Okay, let us say now I'm printing address of b, then I'm printing value inside b. Okay, so you will see that what they will be printing. So when you are saying add and a, that means you are printing the address of a. What is the address of a? That is 1000 will be printed. Then you are simply saying a. A means the value inside a. So what is the value inside a? 20. So 20 will be printed by this. When you say address of b is this. That means 2000 will be printed. And when you say star b simply means that value inside address of b. Okay, so this is nothing but, so when you say, so star means value at. So what is b? B is having the address of a. So for example, this will become something like this, address of a. So now this becomes, so star means value at, and this sign means address of A. Okay, so this becomes something like this in English if you want to translate. So value at address of A is 20. So 20 will be printed here. So this is nothing but dereference operator. Okay, this is nothing but dereference operator. That means when you put this particular sign in front of any pointer, that means you are going inside the value pointed by that particular pointer. So right now we can say that B is pointing to A. And when you say star B means that you are reaching inside that particular box and printing the value. And when you say array of pointers, let us say we have a program something like this. In this, let us say we are declaring an integer type array. And in this, let us say we are storing some integer values like this. Okay, so in memory, this array will be created like this. So you will be having 5 locations, right? In the first location 10, then 20, 30, 40 and 50. And every location will be having an address. Let us say it is starting from 1000. So it will be having 1002, 1004, 1006 and 1008. Okay, now let us say you are declaring an array of pointers. So B is an array of pointers, right? Why I'm saying that B is an array of pointers? Because we have this pointer sign here. So array of pointer means that this array will be storing the pointers, or you can say addresses. Just like this array is an array of values. That means inside this we are storing the values. Like this, B will be an array of pointers. Let us say inside this array we are storing A plus 1, A plus 2, A plus 3, and let us say A plus 4. Okay, what is the meaning of these A plus 1, A plus 2, A plus 3? So if you remember from the class, I told you that the name of the array, okay, for example, A is the name of this array. The name of the array is actually a pointer, right? The name of the array is actually a pointer that is storing the address of the array, that is starting address of the array, that is the starting address. That means inside A you will be having 1000. So A stores the starting address of the array. Then A plus 1 will be storing the next address, this particular address. So this address is A, this is A plus 1, this is A plus 2, this is A plus 3, and this is A plus 4, right? So when you are adding 1 to the pointer, that means you are going to the next address. So A is a pointer which is storing the base address of the array. Base address means starting address of the array. So the array B will look something like this. So B is an array which is having 5 locations like this. So the first location is storing the address A, that is 1000. Second location is storing the next address, that is A plus 1, then A plus 2, A plus 3 and A plus 4. Okay, this array will also be having some address. So every variable here will also be having an address. For example, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012 and 2016. You will see that here I'm adding 4 because each address takes 4 bytes. I'm assuming that the address takes 4 bytes. Okay, one address takes 4 bytes to store. So B is an array because B is an array and the B is the name of the array. So B is also a double pointer. Now B will be a double pointer which will be storing the address of this array, base address of this array, right? That means if you go inside B, you will find the address 1000. And if you put double star on B, that means you will go inside the value 1000, right? Because star B equal to 1000. So when star B equal to 1000, then this will become star 1000. That means the value inside 1000. So value inside 1000 is 10. So the array of pointers simply stores the pointers, right? So you can access this particular array either with the help of A or with the help of B also, right? How you can access this array with the help of A? You can simply say A0. Okay, so A0 means the element 10. Okay, when you say A1, A1 means the value 20. Okay, this value, this is A2, this is A3 and this is A4, right? So like this you can index the array. So this is called as array indexes. Or you can access the same array with the help of B. What you can say is you can simply say star B0. Okay, star B0 matlab, so what is B0? B0 is this, right? This is B1, this is B2, this is B3 and this is B4. Just like this is A0, this is A1, this is A2, A3, A4, because this is also an array. So when you say B0, B0 means 1000, and then you have an star here. So value inside 1000, or you can say star B1. So star B1 means that value inside B1. So what is B1? B1 is 1002, and value inside 1002 is 20. So that is how also you can access the array with the help of pointers, right? I can understand you will be having lots of questions about array, pointers and strings, but don't worry, all these will be cleared in the doubt classes. And those who are new, they will be easily, and they will understand everything if they start watching the classes from starting. That is from the first class. The first class is very important in C programming, that is compilation process and execution process. You will find the first class in C programming, that is compilation process and execution process. Okay, this class is really important because this will give you the basic idea of the computer science, the whole picture of the computer science that single lecture will give you. Okay. So do not worry about if you have very silly doubt and very small doubt, feel free to ask in the class. I would be happy to answer. Because if you keep your silly doubt to yourself, then you can make a wrong image of the concept in your mind, which I do not want. Maybe you will have to unlearn lots of things which you have studied wrongly, right? So every day at PM you can log in into your account and join the live class. And about the live class, I will keep posting in the WhatsApp group also. So in the WhatsApp group, before 5 minutes of the class, I will post whether we will have class or not. So there will be daily class from Monday to Friday. If any day the class is cancelled, I will tell in the group, right? But you can come in the class 8 5 or 8 p.m. and you will see a live class in your course. You can simply click on that. But anyways, if you have any doubt anytime, I'm available on email ID or WhatsApp, or any, there are lots of communication medium. You can communicate with me through Telegram or WhatsApp or email, right? So I'm easily accessible through all the channels. Okay, so welcome to this marathon. NT-NET is not a race, it is simply a marathon in which you will have to go little by little every day. Okay, you will have to put baby steps initially to run, right? Okay, so let us meet in the next class tomorrow. So every class will be of 90 minutes, and it will start from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. In summers, we may change the timing. Maybe we can increase 1 hour. So don't worry about the timings. I will take the suggestions from all the students. I will take the feedback, and then only I will decide the timing of the classes. Okay. So there are 3 4 sub teachers who will be taking the classes. For example, Deepak sir will be teaching. He is from IIC Bangalore, which you have seen already on the website. So IIC Bangalore is the #1 student in India and in Asia also. Right? He is GATE All India rank 53. Right? And then we have Sachin. He is from also IIC Bangalore, GATE All India rank 37. Right? And then myself. Okay, I'm BTech MTech in computer science, NET JRF qualified and GATE, and I'm currently PhD pursuing from IIT Roorkee. Then we have Priyanka ma'am. She will be teaching you paper 1, software engineering and AI. Okay, she is also BTech MTech in computer science and NET qualified. So she will be teaching you software engineering, AI and paper 1. Okay, Deepak will be teaching you TOC and compiler, and Sachin sir will be teaching you data structure and algorithms. Okay, remaining subjects I will teach. Okay, so let us meet in the next class tomorrow, and we will start the syllabus from the next class. right? I hope you know this complete week will be for revision of C programming and operating system, and then from next Monday onwards we will start the next topic in operating system. We will continue from where we left in the in the last live class, right? Okay, any doubt? Otherwise I will be closing the class. Okay, Malloc Alloc I will discuss tomorrow, Saswati, don't worry about that. If you have any general doubt, not regarding any subject, you can ask. Okay, thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Saswati. Good night. Take care.